This is an emergency transmission. Citizens of the world, please, make no mistake. The zombie apocalypse is near. Will you cower and hide, or join us and fight? We are Dezombified. So stay on point and watch your six.
Good evening, everyone. Steve Stockton here with you. Is this thing on? I think we're live. I always miss the cue on there. I get ready to go, and then I hear the music, and then I thought, no, I got to wait until the end of the music, and then I'm waiting to see if there's more music. But here we are. See who we got with us today. Thanks for showing up. Got a good crowd and watching already. Bam Smith, thank you for falling over. One of my regulars from all my other streams. Same with Mutant Artificial Intelligence. Gemma Jade, whoever that is, she seems to be at a lot of my streams as well. Dezombified, of course. Carol Zarek, sister, how you doing, sister? Chris Jarvis, most dangerous man on YouTube, according to the Google Moderators team. What else we got here? I saw the man Sheba. How you doing, man? Good to see you tonight. And Dylan Clark, the other half of and I forgot the name of your channel, dude. I am so sorry. I did that the other day.
Creepy Unsolved.
Creepy Unsolved. There you go. The better half. The other half, the prettier half. I'll go ahead and bring her in. The Bonnie to my Clyde. Gemma Jade, get on in here.
Hello, everybody.
I did that the other day, Dylan. I just spaced on the name. Creepy Unsolved.
Creepy Unsolved Mysteries. Realities in Perspective. Jose Maguina. I want to say hi to my sister who was in the hot tub, and I'm so jelly, but I'm coming next week. Girl, Carol Varick.
Maraid the Mermaid. Dragon ZW.
My beautiful mermaid. My cookie. Chris Jarvis. Pam Smith. Sheba, all of our loyal regulars, Mutant Artificial Intelligence, Realities in Perspective. If I didn't see anybody, I'm sorry. I'm too lazy to scroll up because I'm holding my phone and my laptop. So
and I didn't say hi to Jose or Realities in Perspective, but you got them.
Stemma!
Yeah, Stemma is in the house. Thank you very much. I hope everybody's having a good day. It's hot here today in Portland, Oregon. It's what my granny used to call pneumonia weather. It's like 30s and 40s at night and then 70s during the daytime. I fell asleep out in the yard today in the shade. I was out there with Mulder, and in that 45 minutes or whatever that I dozed off, the sun crept over to where I was. I woke up, got my hoodie, my hat, and everything on. I'm like drenched in sweat. So spring is on the way.
Can I just tell you that I have become my toddler's whipping girl, and he decided we were going out this morning, and I took him down our street. We don't have sidewalks, and there are hills. So in every hill, I run as fast as I can while holding onto his little wagon, screaming, "Wee!" My neighbors must love it. But walking back up the hills in the heat, and I'm a vapor, it was like, oh my God. And now tonight, I actually had to put the heat on downstairs. So Jersey is the same with the bipolar weather. But yeah, spring is coming. And Jaded Stockton, that sounds good. I had something else. Oh yeah, everyone, I just put up a new video finally. I was going to put up Hot Mess Recovery tomorrow actually, but I'm a week behind now because Viva Video crashed from Monday until today. So anyway, we've got a really awesome show, Lady Killers. Steve is not on this one because it's actual killers, not just smooth talking older gentlemen here. We're talking about the actual lady killers.
I've still got my Stocktonites here.
How Stockton got his groove back.
Hey, Stockton never lost his groove, okay? Sister messaged me and said that she's on the link that you sent her, and it's not us, but I see her in the chat. I think there's a breakdown in communication somewhere. Carol, it is us. It may not sound like us, but it really is us.
Yeah, you're in our chat, hon.
Unless we've been replaced by mutant replicants.
Those hot tub bubbles must be getting in her face. Last night, she was deleting people on Facebook in the dark, and she ended up deleting like our
Please
mom that
step
told us
away
to
from the
go
hot
by
tub.
accident. Yeah. All right, you want to get started? I can't wait for this one.
Yeah,
I'm really
let's
excited.
go ahead and go into this one. Lady Killers. I mean
I'm
that
sorry, David
does.
Bingman, welcome.
Yeah, I saw David Bingman come in. I think we're caught up there. But Lady Killers, that does image that springs to mind when you say that. You think of a suave, kind of guy that a real ladies' man. But when we came up with this to do this show, we thought of literal lady killers. And who better to start that off with, even though he may or may not have done it, Robert Blake. Now, a lot of you know Robert Blake. He's a Jersey boy, born Mickey Gubitosi in 1933. Made his debut at the age of 6 in MGM's 1939 movie Bridal Suite. Went on to play Mickey in the Our Gang films. And then did some gangster movies in the 70s. One odd little thing there, 1967, he memorably portrayed Perry Smith, one of the 2 real-life murders at the center of the movie version of Truman Capote's In Cold Blood, which is an excellent book and film, if you've never seen that.
Didn't he portray someone that we were talking about last week? And we were like, oh, that's funny that...
I think he played John List, I believe, didn't he?
Yes, that's what it was. He played John List in the movie. I remember saying, oh, it's so ironic that Robert Blake, and then we were like, oh, because... And it's crazy because we didn't plan this last week to do this week.
Yeah, I think it came to me after, when we were talking after the show. Boney Plater, good to see you here. And a lot of people my age will remember him as Beretta, the street smart plainclothes detective, played on ABC in the late 70s. Had I think it was a cockatoo, some kind of bird named Fred that was his sidekick. So very interesting. But and during his criminal trial, well, I guess let's get into, let you describe the crime, Gemma. What was our dear Mickey Gubitosi accused of?
So, okay, we're not saying that Robert Blake is an actual lady killer because, after all, he was acquitted. But I'm pretty well versed in this case, and in my opinion, he did it. But let's just get a tiny bit of background on Robert Blake. So he was born, like you said, in Nutley, New Jersey, and he's a Virgo, which always surprises me because Virgos are so laid back, except for their obsessive compulsive. You guys, if you know me and you watch my videos and you listen to the live streams, I have to know people's zodiac signs. It helps me to get to know their personality and character better. And Virgos, I don't see often when it comes to murder cases. Of course, there are some, but they're just so laid back and friendly. Like I said, aside from their obsessive compulsive ways. So this is kind of like a whodunit that was made for Hollywood. It's kind of perfect. So Bonny Lee Bakley was known as a con artist. That's not my opinion. That's actually what she did for a living. She was set out to marry and kind of entrap a famous Hollywood star. That was her life goal, her dream. She wrote it in her diary. She told many people. So that's not an opinion to try to speak ill of the deceased. So TV actor Robert Blake, she was found shot to death in a parked car a block away from the Los Angeles restaurant where the couple had just eaten dinner. And what happened was they had kind of this rocky relationship from the very beginning. And I'm sorry, in 1999, Blake met Bonny Lee Bakley, and she was from Wharton, New Jersey, which is actually the town next to me. I do my shopping at their ShopRite. And she had already been married 9 times because she was looking for money. And she reportedly had a history of exploiting older men, especially celebrities, for money. She was dating Christian Brando, the son of Marlon Brando, while she was in a relationship with Robert Blake. She was seeing both of them at the same time, but she really was in love with Blake. Eventually, she did really fall for him. But again, we don't know if it was his money that she actually fell for. Bakley eventually became pregnant, and she told both Christian Brando and Robert Blake that the baby was theirs. Initially, the baby's name was Christian Shannon Brando. And she told everyone that Brando was definitely the father. And Bakley wrote letters describing her dubious motives to Blake. like she was going to entrap him with this baby. Even though she told everybody the baby was Brando's, she was also telling Blake that the baby was his, like I said. So he insisted she get a DNA test done because, of course, and you can't blame him, he wanted a test to prove the paternity. And he became her 10th husband on November 19th in the year 2000 after the DNA test proved that Blake was the biological father of her child, who they renamed Rosie. So he did the right thing. He married her, feeling a little bit of pressure from family and from Bonnie herself that she was going to take the baby and get him for child support and all of this stuff. He finally was like, okay. And he married her. It was not a happy union. It wasn't something he wanted to do. And Blake was very, very bitter. He really resented Bonnie. He wanted nothing. He just kind of wanted to fling with her. She was a younger woman who I guess he found attractive. Many people say she was attractive. I really don't see it. Maybe as a woman, I don't know.
Don't see it either.
In a March 2016 interview at age 82, Blake indicated that he had a new woman in his life who he wanted to remain anonymous. So he wanted to kind of get rid of Bakley. He said he didn't want to murder her, but he wanted her out of his life. So he applied for a marriage license for him and his fiancée, whom he had known for decades and who had testified in his behalf. On December 7, 2018, he filed for divorce from her, but that really has nothing to do with anything. On May 4th, I'm sorry, I have a tickle in my throat. On May 4th, 2001, Blake took Bakley out to dinner at an Italian restaurant in Studio City, California. And they argued the entire time. Robert Blake had taken baby Rosie and given the baby to his daughter. He's like, here, you take care of her. You keep her, like, behind Bakley's back. He didn't think she was a fit mother. He didn't think she was a good person. He knew that she was exploiting him because of this baby. She had gotten pregnant on purpose under false pretenses, telling him that she was on the pill and that she couldn't get pregnant, all these things. So Bakley was fatally shot in the head while sitting in Blake's vehicle, which was parked on a side street around the corner from the restaurant, across the street and behind a dumpster next to a construction site. Blake claimed that he had to return to the restaurant to collect a pistol, which he had left inside, and claimed that he had not been present when the shooting took place. The pistol Blake claimed to have left in the restaurant was later found and determined by the police not to be the murder weapon. On April 18, 2002, Blake was arrested and charged with Bakley's murder. His longtime bodyguard, Earl Caldwell, was also arrested and charged with conspiracy in connection with the murder. A key event that gave the Los Angeles Police Department the confidence to arrest Blake came when a retired stuntman named Ronald Duffy Hambleton agreed to testify against him. Hambleton alleged that Blake had tried to hire him to kill Bakley. Another retired stuntman and an associate of Hambleton's, Gary McLarty, also came forward with a similar story. So he was trying to hire people to kill her. According to author Miles Corwin, Hambleton had agreed to testify against Blake only after being told that he would be subject to a grand jury subpoena in a misdemeanor charge if he did not testify against Blake. That cannot be, I can't say that that's a fact, though. And on April 22nd, 2002, Blake was charged with 1 count of murder with special circumstances, an offense which carried a possible death penalty. He was also charged with 2 counts of solicitation of murder and 1 count of conspiracy to commit murder. Obviously, he pled not guilty. On March 13th, 2003, after almost a year in jail, Blake was granted bail, which was set at $1.5 million, and was allowed to go free to await trial. He was placed on house arrest during this time, and on October 31st, Halloween, in our own Steve Stockton's birthday, in a major reversal for the prosecution, the judge dismissed the conspiracy charges against Blake and Caldwell during a pretrial hearing. The junior prosecutor who handled the case, Shelley Samuels, was interviewed by CBS reporter Peter Van Sant for the CBS program 48 Hours Investigates, and during the interview broadcast in November 2003, she admitted that the prosecutors had no forensic evidence implicating Blake in the murder and that they could not tie him to the murder weapon. So, to wrap it up, Blake's criminal trial for murder began on December 20th, 2004, with opening statements by the prosecution and opening statements by the defense the following day. The prosecution contended that Blake intentionally murdered Bakley to free himself from a loveless marriage, while the defense claimed that Blake was an innocent victim of circumstantial and fabricated evidence. McLarty and Hambleton each testified that Blake had asked them to murder Bakley. On cross-examination, the defense brought up McLarty's mental health issues and Hambleton's criminal history. The lack of gunshot residue on Blake's hands was a key part of the defense's case that Blake was not the shooter. Blake chose not to testify. On March 16, 2005, Blake was found not guilty of murder and not guilty of one of the 2 counts of solicitation of murder. The other count for solicitation to commit murder was dropped after it was revealed that the jury was deadlocked 11-1 in favor of an acquittal. The Los Angeles District Attorney Stephen Cooley, commenting on this ruling, called Blake, quote, a miserable human being, end quote, and he called the jurors, quote, incredibly stupid, end quote, to fall for the defense's claims. Public opinion regarding the verdict was mixed, with some feeling that Blake was guilty, though many felt that there was not enough evidence to convict him. On the night of his acquittal, several fans celebrated at Blake's favorite haunt and the scene of the crime, Vitello's Italian restaurant.
Vitello's.
I feel that I don't think he should have been found guilty, just like with the Casey Anthony case. I think he's guilty of sin, but I don't think that the prosecution proved it beyond a reasonable doubt.
Yeah, and they did not. And the thing, I mean, he had the perfect alibi. He went back in to get his gun. How could I have shot her if my gun was in the restaurant? I think it was prearranged. Now, this is just my opinion. I think it was prearranged, and he knew that when he went back in the restaurant for whatever reason, that was when it was going to go down. I've been to Vitello's. It's right there on Tujunga Boulevard in Studio City, and the area where he parked, instead of parking right by the restaurant or right around the side of the building, he parked like around back near the dumpsters, which, you know, if you're a celebrity, they usually don't do that. You park near the front so you can get in and out without getting hassled by somebody on the sidewalk. I think he parked very carefully back there where he did, and might not have been either of these stuntmen, because, yeah, during cross-examination, they brought into question their mental health. They were both revealed to be cocaine and methamphetamine users, and it just made it that much easier to acquit Blake. But, however, I like I said, I think he had somebody do it. Might not have been those 2 guys, but somebody pulled the trigger on her, obviously, and then threw the gun away. The interesting thing about it, though, much like somebody else we're going to be talking about, even though he was acquitted, he was found liable in a civil trial of intentionally causing Bonny Lee Bakley's death and ordered to pay $30 million to her children. And Rose remains in the care of Blake's eldest daughter, Delina, I'm not sure how she pronounces that. And although he didn't testify in his criminal trial, he did take the stand during his civil trial to deny the accusations. And it was really sad. I mean, he was a big star at one time. Now he's just a poor old man that I think Bakley was just taking advantage of him.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought that maybe she really cared about him, but you never know with someone
money.
Right. You never know with someone like that. And especially she was threatening to exploit him, and you don't do that to somebody you love, And I watched so many documentaries about this, so many movies about this. I read a book about it. I don't remember which one, and I don't want, I don't know, but I'm pretty well versed in this case. And there's a lot of little intimate details. She just wasn't a good person, and I'm sorry, may she rest in peace. And nobody deserves to be murdered or killed that way, regardless. It's but she just wasn't a good person. And I think that he was so desperate to just get rid of her. And because she was trying to extort him. And honestly, he did not want anything to do with that baby either. He gave the baby to his daughter thinking that she was going to keep it. It's just that when Bonnie found out and was like, oh, heck no, then, then I think that's when he felt like, okay, so now I really have a problem, because now she wants us to raise this kid together.
And let's see. We'll
Sorry,
go
I'm
ahead.
choosing my avatar, but I don't know if it's working.
Go ahead and go into our next person here. Phil Spector. You know him for his Wall of Sound. You know him for music in the 60s. He, born in the Bronx, began his career in 1958 as co-founder, guitarist, and vocalist of the Teddy Bears. They had a U.S. #1 single, To Know Him Is to Love Him. Started his own record company at the age of 21 and became the youngest ever U.S. label owner at that point. He wrote for other acts such as the Ronettes, the Crystals, Ike, and Tina Turner. And he was the one that put together what the house band that was known as the Wrecking Crew, which included Glenn Campbell and some of those people that played on like every hit in the 60s, regardless of who. It said on the album on the cover, it was usually the Wrecking Crew that was doing the rhythm section, if not all of the playing. He went on to produce albums for the Beatles and just the Righteous Brothers, George Harrison alone. He was dubbed the first tycoon of teen. He really had his fingers on the pulse of what was going on in the teen world and teen music. But turns out that he wasn't that nice of a guy. Uh, Once, and I hate to speak ill of the dead, I honestly, until we got into this tonight, I didn't know that he had passed away. He died in January of this year from possibly related to that thing that's been going around since last year that we dare not mention its name. But Spector had an affinity for firearms. I remember reading an account of the Ramones when he recorded their album produced End of the Century. They said that he would often be in the studio with them, and while they're trying to sing and get takes and stuff, he's pointing a gun at people around the room, or he's twirling his pistol, or he's taking out one of many guns and showing them off and playing with them. And this was in his home studio. He had a studio in his house, and he packed, even at home, he would have several guns on him at a time. So and there were other ex-girlfriends that claimed to have been threatened by Spector and his weapons, and
many people were threatened. He used to just pull his gun out at parties and like shoot at the wall.
And again, the Ramones thing, Dee Dee Ramone once claimed that Spector pulled a gun on him when he tried to leave a recording session. You're not going anywhere.
He didn't like people to leave him. That was the thing. If people tried to leave his parties, he would do that too. That's when he would start shooting.
So eventually, for whatever reason and however it happened and whoever's to blame or at fault, or even if it was an accident, he ended up shooting actress Lana Clarkson in the mouth while she was in his mansion, also known as the Pyrenees Castle in Alhambra, California. And Google pictures of that place. It is a palace indeed. It's amazing and befitting of someone who at one time had such stature in the music industry. And he told Esquire in an interview in 2003 that Clarkson's death was an accidental suicide, that she had kissed the gun and it went off. I don't know. That's at least that's the most original.
I kissed a gun and I liked it.
So again, he made an emergency call, or actually, his driver made the emergency call and quoted Spector saying, "I think I've killed somebody." So
he was whacked out of his mind too.
They let him out on $1 million bail while he was waiting to trial. Trial began March 19th, 2007. Proceedings in Superior Court, Los Angeles, was televised and was declared a mistrial because of a hung jury, 10-2 for conviction. And I think he tried to portray himself as crazy. I know when they first had him in there before he got out on bail, he complained because they wouldn't let him have his wig. And he looks frightening with the wig, and he looks even more frightening without it, I think. And he talked about in his jail cell, he had a friend, and it was a pet cockroach, and he'd named it. I forget what he named it. And it would come out, and he would feed it bits of food, and it lived with him and shared the cell with him. And again, I think he was pushing for the crazy angle there.
Nada culpa.
So, did she kiss the gun, or did he? I mean, it could have very well been an accident. He's waving it around. You do that enough, and especially if you're up in age like that.
Shoot someone in the mouth, though. That's the only thing that got me, because at first when I heard the story, I only got like the basics of it, and I was like, well, maybe just. I really don't like, and again, those of you that know me, I do not like when people's pasts are brought up if it has nothing to do with what's going on that day. It doesn't even matter, honestly, to me personally, if he waved a gun around all the time. What matters is that night, what happened. And I'm sorry, but you don't accidentally shoot someone in the mouth. And I don't think that a beautiful woman, she was a little depressed that her career was declining. She did not initially want to go home with him, and she did tell him from the door she would go stay for one drink. And in fact, what they think happened wasn't it his bodyguard who called the police?
Yeah, supposedly at Phil's request, but then he was telling him what Phil was saying with the quote, "I think I killed somebody."
Right. In my opinion, I believe that he did do it, definitely, and I believe that he passed away right where he belonged.
Yeah. And again, I don't think he really intended to kill her, but if he killed her, regardless of the intention,
But how do you
that's
not intend to shoot someone in the mouth? It's not like she was
well.
shot in the side of the head. It's not like she was actually shot in the back, in the arm, or even
And
in the heart.
the
Right
way
in
I
the
see
mouth.
it
What was he
playing
doing?
out, he probably pulled the gun on her, shoved it in her face, and said, "You better shut up, or you better stay here, or you better do
That could
whatever."
be it. Don't leave.
And then,
Don't freaking
boom, it
leave.
went off. And again, for whatever reason, I mean, but that's what you get. You play with guns, somebody's going to get hurt.
Absolutely.
And especially at his age. Well, they brought him back for a retrial for murder in the second degree. That trial began on October 20th, 2008, with the same judge, Judge Fiedler, again presiding. And this time the trial wasn't televised. Spector was once again represented by attorney Jennifer Lee Barringer. Went to jury on March 26, 2009. And 18 days later, on April 13th, unlucky 13 for him, they came back with a guilty verdict this time, no hung jury. Additionally, Spector was found guilty of using a firearm in the commission of the crime, which added 4 years to the sentence. California laws there. He was immediately taken into custody, and on May 29, 2009, was sentenced to 19 years to life in the California state prison system. At the time of his death, he was in poor health. He was an inmate at the California Healthcare Facility in Stockton, California, which is named after my relatives. He would have been, it is, he would have been eligible for parole in 2024.
So Carol Varick, my sister, said, what about the actor that played in the movie 40-Year-Old Virgin that went crazy and stabbed his girlfriend? Yeah, Shelley Malil, absolutely. That's another one. And oh man, I had another really
there
good
are
one.
other lady killers here. These were just three that we picked.
We tried to pick the three most popular ones, but yeah, I forgot all about that. I was gonna say the guy from Austin Powers, one of the Austin Power movies that like killed people with the shoe guy, the like Chinese guy that like he would throw a shoe and kill people. He was a serial killer. So
Foot
just
Job
because,
or whatever his name was.
Yeah, just because you're famous doesn't mean that you're not capable of this. So I did not know either that Phil Spector passed away, and I think he was a ticking time bomb. It's alleged, and I believe it, that he beat and abused and imprisoned his wife, Ronnie, from the Ronettes. I don't remember what song they sang that was really popular that I absolutely love.
Be My Baby.
It was Be My Baby. Won't you please? I love that song. But he brutalized her and terrorized her for years.
Well, his own sons claimed that he held them captive in the mansion and made them do unspeakable things with their stepmother. So, excuse me, he just wasn't a nice guy. And he did have a history of mental illness. He testified in his own behalf during a 2005 court deposition that he had been treated for bipolar disorder or manic depression for 8 years, saying that he suffered from no sleep, depression, mood changes, mood swings, that he was indeed hard to live with, had a hard time concentrating, and just a hard time getting through life.
He was like Ike Turner with Ronnie.
Yeah, I've been called a genius, and I think genius is not there all the time, and I have borderline insanity. So I think he called it himself. But again, if you're that messed up and you know it, then you don't need firearms and alcohol and drugs and things around at your disposal.
That's true, and like you said, I believe that when guns are around, an accident's bound to happen. When you have someone who drinks or uses substances, they could be, not Phil Spector. They could be the nicest person in the world. Accidents do happen.
But he suffered he was sick before he went into prison. He had just a progressive deterioration. He had Parkinson's disease. He trembled terribly and had lost his ability to speak owing to a condition with his larynx. And yeah, died in a prison hospital on January 16th this year, 2021. His daughter, Nicole Audrey Spector, attributed his death to complications of that thing that's going around, which he had been diagnosed with in December of last year. So, but yeah, there are others that we considered, some that are accused that we don't necessarily know. I know you did a video on the death of Natalie Wood Wagner, and
Yep.
there's a contingency of people that think RJ or Robert Wagner had a lot to do with that. So there was other celebrity lady killers. Let's go ahead and go into a break here, and then we'll come back and do another bad guy for you.
Alleged.
Yeah, this is all alleged, regardless of whether they were accused or convicted or acquitted.
My
Avon
mom
calling.
my mom wanted to buy merch from here. She's like, "Who gets the money for that merch?" I'm like, "It doesn't matter. If you want something, buy it." I'm
Yeah,
like, we work with them,
get
you
some
know.
merch here. They have stuff with
I was like, "That
our
was their
stuff
life
on it.
taco stuff."
Yeah, right on. And I think they've got some stuff with the Real Evil logo on it. So yeah, enjoy that Dezombified merch there, Mom. It makes great Christmas gifts. But
Hold on, I'm right in the middle of something real quick. So
okay, go ahead. We are back, and we'll get ready here to go into our next possible bad guy. I think this one's guilty as hell, as do most people. It was acquitted, but then, much like Robert Blake, he was found guilty in civil court. So I'm always kind of puzzled over that's how you can be found not guilty in one place, but then guilty as all get out in the other, and they make that stick. But that's our court and judicial system for you. Probably, if you've seen if you bothered to read the title of the show there, and looked at the thumbnail. Of course, I'm talking about Orenthal James Simpson, OJ Simpson. None other. I mean, he was a talented football player, obviously former football running back, also a broadcaster, actor, advertising spokesman, and convicted felon. He's once a very popular figure within the U.S. public, and now he's best known for being tried for the murders of his former wife, Nicole Brown Simpson, and her friend, Ron Goldman. He was acquitted of the murders in criminal court, but was later found responsible for both deaths in a civil trial. Now, I don't know about anybody else here, but I'm old enough to remember when that happened with the whole slow speed Bronco chase on live TV.
Yep.
And my daughter was just tiny at the time, and she pulled her. She had one of those little tiny tot cars
She
or
couldn't
whatever.
have been that young. She's my age, and I was a teenager.
Well, it was. What year did it happen?
Or maybe I'm wrong, but I thought it was in '97. Isn't Jessica my age? You might be confusing it with another trial.
No, Jessica was born in 1990, so she was.
I'm sorry. I thought she was my age. My bad.
No,
I should have known better than to correct you. Go on. Steve knows his stuff.
She was small anyway. She had one of her little ride-on vehicles, one of those little electric cars like RJ has, and she pulled right up in front of the TV and was like, "I like this." You know, she was pointing at it, and she liked the idea of a slow speed chase. And so yeah, she would have been 5 or 6, or 6 going on 7, I guess, depending. Her birthday was June 7th. I don't remember the actual date of that happening. Now I'm curious, and I have to look. Yeah, anyway, not important. But yeah, that was very famous.
I'm ready to go whenever you are.
Slow speed chase. Okay, go ahead and take off on it.
All right, let me get Phil Spector out of here. Okay, so OJ Simpson is a Cancer, born July 9th, 1947, nicknamed The Juice. We know that he's a football running back. He's a broadcaster, actor, advertising spokesman. You know the most interesting guy in the world? OJ Simpson is known to many and was known to most before this as the nicest guy in the world. He's one of those people, and I totally can understand this because he's a Cancer, where he would have the words nice guy in front of his name. Like, nice guy OJ would be his nickname. I know a few people like that. Cancers are definitely like that. So let's get into the little bit. He was born in San Francisco, California, but we'll talk about what we want to talk about here. We all know that is the crime.
The crime of the century. Up until the time of the OJ trial, that was it was the longest and most costliest trial in U.S. history. The Manson trial prior to that held that distinction.
So also, now I forgot what I was going to say. So, okay, we'll just talk about the murder and the trial. And if I remember, that's fine. At age 19, he married Marguerite Whitley. They had 3 children, Annelle, Jason, and Aaron. And in August of 1979, when Aaron LaShawn Simpson was only 2 years old, he drowned in the family swimming pool. So OJ's son at 2 years old did pass away, one of his sons, his youngest. He met Nicole Brown in 1977 when she was working as a waitress at a nightclub, and he was still married to his first wife, but he began dating Brown. The night that he met her, he told his friend he was going to marry her. Simpson and Marguerite divorced in 1979. Brown and Simpson were married in 1985, and 5 years after his 5 years after his retirement from pro football. They had 2 children together, Sydney Brooke Simpson born in 85, and Justin Ryan Simpson, born in 88. And they were married for 7 years, during which Simpson pleaded no contest to spousal abuse in 1989, and Brown filed for divorce on February 25th, 1992, citing the usual irreconcilable differences. In 1993, after the divorce, they did make an attempt to reconcile, but according to a friend of the family, quote, they were a dramatic, fractious, mutually obsessed couple before they married, after they divorced, and after they reconciled, end quote. So, on June 12th, 1994, Nicole Simpson and Ron Goldman were found stabbed to death outside of her condo in Brentwood in Los Angeles. And he was a person of interest in their murders. So what happened, and I'll kind of give you the rundown really quick. What happened was Nicole and her family and OJ all went to their daughter Sydney's dance recital that night. OJ showed up with flowers, and Nicole's family was always really close with OJ. They absolutely loved him despite, the alleged abuse and all that stuff. But that night they all snubbed him, and Nicole snubbed him as well. They told him, the family flat out told him that they do not want him sitting by them for this recital. And he kind of felt bad because they were, his family. He loved them as a mother and as a sister and all that. So he was pretty upset. Nicole was supposed to, and this is where his son, Jason, ends up coming into it as like an alternate suspect, which we don't even have time really to get into tonight. But anyway, they were supposed to go, Nicole and her family and the kids were supposed to go to OJ's oldest son's restaurant where he was a chef, and they were going to go there to eat. But Nicole called him at the last minute and told him that they weren't going to go because that restaurant was a little bit too pricey, and they wanted to go somewhere closer to her condo in Brentwood because they were all kind of tired. The family had made a trip to get there, blah, blah, blah. So he was pretty upset, the oldest son. He was actually, the people he worked with said he was very, very angry and like stabbing a knife into things. So, by the way, he doesn't have a very good alibi. So anyway, Nicole's mother, they were all standing outside talking after they ate at this restaurant, and Nicole's mother had called her once she got home and said, listen, I dropped my glasses, my reading glasses, somewhere in or outside of the restaurant. So Nicole called the restaurant, and they went outside and looked, and they found her glasses laying in a gutter. So Ron Goldman, being a nice guy, he was a wannabe actor, an aspiring actor, but he was doing the waiter thing until he got his big break or whatever. I think he was also an aspiring model. So anyway, being a nice guy, he knew Nicole and her family. They had gone in there all the time. He kind of knew OJ too, I think, not as well as Nicole. Nicole was more friendly with people like that. OJ wouldn't have been very friendly with Ron if he did know him, because Ron was friendly with Nicole and OJ was very jealous. So anyway, Goldman says, all right, I'll do her the favor. Listen, Nicole, don't come all the way back out. I'll bring the glasses to you. He goes there, he rings the bell or knocks on the door. As soon as Nicole comes out, before they believe and speculate that before the two could even greet each other, someone, whoever it was, came out of the woodwork and nearly decapitated Nicole. So this happened outside of her condo, like I said, in the Brentwood area of Los Angeles. He was a person of interest in their murders because the police ended up realizing that it was Nicole Brown Simpson and some guy. It was wrongly reported that it was her boyfriend or that they were dating. And the police claim that the reason that they were at OJ's house in the first place is because when they realized it was Nicole, they wanted to personally go to his house and let him know about the death. Just as kind of like, he was such a nice guy. They kind of knew him and they wanted to just let him know. Now, whether this is true or not, it sounds a little shady to me that that's why they would go do that. Who does that? But because he's a celebrity and so well known, let's just say that that's why they wanted to do that. But when they get to his house, they see his Bronco, his white Bronco, parked out front, which, by the way, I don't remember the guy's name and I don't see it in front of me. His best friend, kind of like his whipping boy, that's his B word. That's who I call this guy. Had the same exact white Bronco. What's his name?
Al Cowling.
AC, that's right. So they go there, but they see a little bit of blood by the door handle of the driver's side of the Bronco, and then they see droplets of blood like leading into his driveway by like the gate, because obviously his house has a locked gate. And now they're concerned that there was a crime. They claim that they were concerned that there was a crime also at OJ's house. So Mark Furman hopped the fence. And can I just say, I think what killed this entire case was putting Mark Furman on the stand. He replied no comment to every single question because he was afraid he was going to get in trouble for his racism.
Yep.
But when he replied, I refuse to answer on grounds that I wish to assert my Fifth Amendment privilege to the question of, did you plant evidence? I think even though he did not plant evidence, when he refused to answer that question, and I've heard a lot of the juries talk, they said that's kind of what tipped the scales.
That was the tilting point right
and
there.
Plus, nobody knew what DNA was. The prosecution understood it. If you guys watch a video clip, if you can find it, it's on YouTube, of the reactions to OJ being found not guilty. If you look at his own lawyer and best friend, like a brother to him, Rob Kardashian's reaction, he was stone shocked silent. He could not believe. If you look at a clip of Rob Kardashian's reaction to OJ Simpson being found not guilty, you will roll over with laughter or just be shocked. So what happened was, he did not turn himself in. Like one of his lawyers had made a deal with the police to let him turn himself in. And on June 17th, 5 days later, he became the object. That's when the pursuit by the police in the 93 Ford Bronco, and it was owned and driven, I did have his name in front of me, by Al Cowlings. TV station interrupted coverage of the 1994 NBA Finals to broadcast the incident live with an estimated audience of 95 million people. The event was described as, quote, the most famous ride on American shores since Paul Revere's, end quote. The pursuit, the arrest, and the trial of Simpson were among the most widely publicized events in American history. The trial, often characterized as, quote, like you said, the trial of the century, because of its international publicity, likened to that of Seiko and Vanzetti and the Lindbergh kidnapping, culminated after 11 months on October 3rd, 1995, when the jury rendered a verdict of not guilty for the two murders. An estimated 100 million people nationwide tuned in to watch or listen to the verdict announcement. Following Simpson's acquittal, no additional arrests or convictions related to the murders were made. So I just want to say quickly, Steve, before you jump in here, there's a new documentary called, I believe it's called Who Really Killed Nicole, or Who Killed Nicole. And I believe it's on Prime Video or IMDb. But they present a couple of alternate suspects, including OJ's oldest son, which I gotta say, they make a pretty good case for OJ just covering up for his son. And I'm a believer that OJ did it. Until I saw this documentary, I was like, they do make a good case for him covering up for his son. Yeah. And also, if you watch the guys who did Ryan Murphy and Brad Falchuk, the guy who do American Horror Story, they do American Crime Story. And the first one they did was OJ Simpson. And I believe it's on Netflix now. It's on Netflix or Prime, one of those. I have so many, I can't remember. And it's like 13 episodes. And if you watch that, it's said to be the most accurate representation of what actually happened.
No. And I've always been thought that if OJ didn't do it, that he knew who did it. But I don't know that they ever fully pursued that line of questioning. If you didn't do it, do you know who did it? Did you hire somebody to do it? Did you?
Right.
You know?
And it's a shame because the police, and this happens all the time, when somebody that the police go after is found not guilty, the police shut the investigation down instead of, it happened too with the West Memphis 3, which we're going to talk about at some point too. It's just like, they don't pursue anyone else. And Ron Goldman's father was an advocate. Let me tell you, dude was nuts about getting justice for his son. And it's a shame because 2 people were murdered. Her children were sleeping right in the house there. She was a mother. She was a sister. She was a daughter. She was his wife. Okay. And if his oldest son did it, she was his mother, his stepmother. And it's just so messed up. It happens. I've yet to think of a case. And if you guys can think of one, call me wrong. I'm sure there are some out there, but once someone's acquitted or found not guilty, the police never reinvestigate. They feel like, oh, well, we got the right person, the jury got it wrong. Instead of going out and examining and investigating other lines of inquiry, other things, they just let justice not be done. And unless something falls out of the sky and into their laps, some kind of confession or actual DNA evidence falls into their laps, they move on and they don't even give 2 craps that the family hasn't received justice.
And a lot of that was because of Mark Furman and things like that, and that the police did get such a black eye over that case. They just wanted to sweep it under the rug and be done with it. But
they never want to admit they're wrong, like those freaking Alfred police.
And even though he was acquitted by the jury after that lengthy and internationally publicized trial, the families of the victims subsequently filed a civil suit, and the civil court found him completely guilty and awarded them $33.5 million. And he moved to Florida, settled in Miami to avoid paying any more of the liability judgment, which as of 2 years ago, he has mostly not paid, which I think that was pretty crappy. But then, what goes around comes around. 2007, Simpson was arrested in Las Vegas, Nevada. I lived out there at the time. I thought we were going to have another trial of the century. I was just waiting to go down to the courthouse and watch the festivities. He was charged with felonies of armed robbery and kidnapping. He was convicted in what happened with that one? Supposedly, somebody at a memorabilia show had some stuff of his that had been stolen, and he and some of his buddies went in with guns to get it back and wouldn't let the men leave. It was said, in the first trial, it was if the glove doesn't fit, you must acquit. Well, in this one, it was saying, if that's my shit, you must acquit. But anyway, they did find him guilty of technically kidnapping because he held the men at gunpoint in their own room and wouldn't let them leave. So under the definition of the law that they found in that court anyway, that's a form of kidnapping or holding someone against their will.
Right.
He was sentenced to 33 years imprisonment with a minimum of 9 years without parole. Served his sentence at Lovelock Correctional Center near Lovelock, Nevada. Was granted parole July 20th, 2017, after having been a model prisoner, and decided just to stay in Las Vegas because Florida said, we don't want you back.
Well, I mean, that's pretty messed up when a state doesn't want you. Thank you for the super chat at Fear the Great White. But another point of contention is that if it doesn't fit, you must acquit, because those gloves had been examined and blood had been taken off and chemicals had been sprayed on them, which were shrinking agents, according to the prosecution. And the prosecution, Marsha Clark, did not want OJ to have to try those gloves on because she knew that. And the guy that she worked with, I don't remember his name, but I know that he was played by Courtney Vance in American Crime Story. He did it anyway. Without her, they had a huge argument about it. And she was like, don't have him put those gloves on. Don't have him put the gloves on. And he had told her, don't put Furman on the stand. And they weren't working together. And again, nobody understood really DNA evidence at that time. Rob Kardashian understood it. And that was one of the main things for him. He kept saying over and over again, but you don't understand. It's a 1 in whatever billion chance that it could be anyone else's blood. And also, that Dragons, thank you for reminding me, because that was actually my point, but I ramble. You guys know that. Gloves on gloves doesn't work. They made him put on those clear plastic thin. They are very thin, but still, those clear plastic gloves on underneath the actual gloves, which had chemicals sprayed on them that were shrinking agents. So obviously they were not going to fit. And he wrote a book called If I Did It. Like, the gall on this guy. Rob Kardashian stopped talking to him when OJ got out. He threw this big party and some people came. He wasn't allowed to go to his favorite restaurant. They didn't want him there anymore because they thought he was a murderer. And he was like, F it, I'm going to have the party at my house. A lot of people did show up to show their support. And Rob Kardashian was one of them. You have to understand, they were best friends. Like, that was his dude. And OJ stood up and made an announcement, and Cuba Gooding Jr. played OJ in that, and he did so good. And David Schwimmer played Rob Kardashian. They had a great cast. So anyway, John Travolta was in it. So he stands up and he makes this huge announcement. He tells everyone to be quiet, and he's like, just so you all know, I'm going to find out who killed Nicole. I'm not going to stop. And Rob Kardashian was like, dude, I've had enough. That's enough. And walked out of the party and never spoke to OJ again until, he passed away.
MAI, thanks for the super sticker, super chat there. We appreciate it. Sean G, Chasing the Truth, Paranormal.
Hey,
Good
Sean.
to have you with us, buddy.
Hi.
And yeah, the whole thing just...
Mute and thank you.
And then he did the whole thing. Well, if I'd done it, this is the way I would have done it. Or similar.
Like
he wrote
the
a book
gall.
Yeah. And if I'd done it, this is the way I would have
I
done it.
want to read that.
I would, but it'd make me angry, and that's why I haven't read it yet. Because he just, even when he was on trial, he just had that whole aloof, above it all attitude, relative in perspective. Thank you for the super chat. We appreciate that. Dezombified appreciates it. That all goes with them and stays with the channel to make it even better for all you guys. They do a fantastic job here. And yeah, don't have a lot watching tonight, but should catch up. Like Jim was saying, we go live on Sunday and just talk a bunch of BS and get. I think our last one's already over 2,000 views. So just
within the hour after we stop, we end up with like our campfire stories ended up with over like 1,000 views or like 700 views or something like that within an hour of us stopping. So don't worry about like nobody coming in for the live stream. Some people just don't like live.
well,
Listening
shout
to
it
things
out
live.
to our folks. Yeah, our production videos over there, we'll get like 10,000 views within the first hour, and then the first 24 hours. Whereas with the live streams, they get like maybe 1,000, 2,000 something within the first day or two. So people do like a production video better than a live. I like the live stuff myself, especially
I never like live
like this. You know what? You never know what's going to happen.
I never liked live streams until Steve and I started doing them because people don't interact with the chat, and I would be in so many streams of like YouTubers that I absolutely fangirled over, and I would see people being like, can you just say hi to my toddler? And they weren't talking about anything that they couldn't stop, and they just completely ignore you.
Yeah, I've had that experience too. And
that's one of the reasons you and I decided to do Fireside Chat.
And I won't name any names, but there's some I've watched where, like you said, they don't even acknowledge the people in the chat. They're not there. They have their moderators take care of everything, and they just sit and do their own thing. Again, there's some big names out there that do it, but I like recognizing people. I like calling people out, and it's to some people it's a big deal. They like hearing their name on YouTube, I guess. But if you don't have the time to stop and thank your audience and howdy with your audience, and you just, I don't know, you got your priorities wrong or something. You guys are what it's all about. That's why we're here.
Exactly.
Otherwise, we'd just be on the phone talking to each other like we are all the rest of the time. So, and I say that with my shows at night. I've been doing the Ghost Stories at Midnight. We will be doing episode 70 tonight, 70 nights in a row. And
I got to stop in again.
It just keeps going up. The other night had they've been getting around 200-300 views, I think, per episode. And then same with the Morning Chill music show I do on KPNL. What do you mods, MAI, if you would pop in the KPNL radio link in there, guys, come over to KPNL radio and subscribe. I'm very small, just starting out.
Oh yeah,
but we're building up over there. I do a music show in the mornings, Monday through Friday, called the Morning Chill. Have a lot of fun in the chat. A bunch of regulars that are here today are over there, and they chat with me in the mornings. They're also at Ghost Stories at midnight, and we chat overnight sometimes. I'm an insomniac, and a lot of people that are chronic pain, PTSD, fibromyalgia, high anxiety. It's a place to come and chill and hang out, listen to some stories, or in the daytime, listen to some music and talk with like-minded people. Just commiserate, if nothing else. And see that link there, Gemma Jade YT.
I was just going to say that I'm at 807, guys. We could do better than that.
Get her to 1,000. Come on.
The last live stream that we did on, I believe it was Sunday night, I gained like 27 subscribers just from that night. Guys, if you can please, I think everyone here is actually already subbed. But if you are not, please
preaching
go
to the choir.
I just put out a new video about an hour before I started this live stream in my series Strange and Suspicious Celebrity Deaths of Brittany Murphy. And last week one of the videos I covered was the disappearance of 8-year-old Zachary Bernhardt. That one is a crazy case. So if you guys did not see it. She's got
some great stuff over there. She does the really deep dives on missing persons and mysteries. We usually do several in a row or in one video, so we keep it kind of short and get to as many as possible. But Gemma likes to take an individual case and just go absolutely batshit crazy on it and pull out all these amazing details. So if you want to see the deep dives, if you want to see the amazing facts that you won't hear other places, Gemma's got the goods.
Skippy. Anything else? Are we good?
I just wanted to mention that famous white Bronco, it's on display in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, just there in the edge of the Smokies at the Alcatraz East Crime Museum, alongside one of Dillinger's automobiles and Ted Bundy's Volkswagen. So when I do get back east and I get all you people with me to go on a road trip, we got to go make our picture with Ted Bundy's Volkswagen.
Listen, two things. Number one, I just got a shirt that has Ted Bundy's Volkswagen. It's on the bottom. It says "Want to ride" with a question mark. And I love it when someone actually gets the joke. I wore it to my doctor appointment last month, and one person was like, "Oh my God, that's an awesome shirt." And everyone else was like, "I don't get it." And I was like, "And you never will." So the other thing is I'm starting a new series. I'm not sure what I'm going to call it yet, but I think it's going to be something like Haunted Objects. And speaking of cars on display, James Dean's cursed Porsche, which went missing, little bastard. I'm going to be doing a video on that soon. Alien Hybrid Theory. I promised near-death experiences like 3 weeks ago, but then I took a hiatus. My software went down. Also, anyone waiting for Hot Mess Recovery, that was supposed to go up tomorrow, but again, with the software issue, which it is back up now, it's going to be actually next Thursday. The channel is there. Hot Mess Recovery is there. I don't have the link for it, but there's no content on it. So I'll be announcing that on my channel as well. That's for all you people that are in recovery with me. Looking forward to that channel. A lot of people have been asking me about it. It's coming, guys. So
And Sean G, Dezombified dropped a link to his channel in there. Go check him out. He was on Saturday night. Correct me if I'm wrong, Sean, but I think you're at 5 o'clock Central Time. I usually miss it because I think it's East Coast time, and I'll come in late. But Sean has a great paranormal show over there. If you've ever heard him tell his near-death experience, that's a showstopper right there. I don't think he talks about it very often, but he always has some good guests, some interesting stuff over there. Has call-ins, has live psychics on. Psychic Chris Garcia, I think, has been on there a few times. I think I've got that right. Chris Garcia is one of those. He's been on so many different shows. He was on Spaced Out Radio. He's on We Are Paradox Media. He's all over the place. 7 to 9 Central. Man, I was way off. That's on Saturday nights. Go check out Sean. He's a part of the Dark Waters Network and also on the radio in New Orleans, UPRN Talk Radio. Is it 101.7 or 107.7 New Orleans? I can remember the call sign of the station, but I can't remember what time you come on. But anyway, Sean has a great show over there. And yeah, you're the great. I've been fascinated with that car too. I thought she was fixing to surprise me here and say that it had been found. Now, there was somebody a while back that claimed that they knew where it was, that it was behind a hidden wall in a warehouse or behind a secret wall in a warehouse, but they wanted $1 million to reveal the location. So
forget that noise. Maybe I'll find out. I don't know. But I'm working on that soon. Like I said, near-death experience, shadow people with the connection to the jinn. So I've got a lot of paranormal coming up, guys, but as always, I will keep with, and plus my reboots. I have a video that's been there for 6 months and has 47 views. So I think I'm going to redo that one. But that's why I redo all of the old videos. Some of you don't like the reboots, but you tolerate them, and a lot of you really like them. And I redo them because I was so inexperienced. I was just a mess. I was a hot mess. And I want to redo them to make them better content for you guys with better lighting and better audio and better background.
They were great anyway, and they're exceptionally great now.
Thank you. So good night, everybody. I have got to call my son's father and find out where my toddler is at 9:10 at night. But thank you so much, everyone, for coming out. You guys know that I love and appreciate you guys so much. And Dezombified, thank you so much for having us, for having me, and everyone else. If you didn't subscribe to my channel, please find the link and go do that. And if you are subscribed, check out the video I put up just a little while ago, and also Zachary Bernhardt. Good night, everyone.
Good night. Thanks again to the Zombified for having us. Join me tonight for Ghost Stories at midnight on Pacific Time Zone. It usually runs all night. I usually run it for about 7 or 8 hours. So we will see you then. Again, thanks, everybody. Love each and every one of you. On behalf of Gemma and myself, we'll see you next time.
You goofed up, kid.
Hey, you don't know me.
Oh, hi. Wait a minute. Who are you?
Pudding!
Oh my god, Becky, look at her butt. Push it.
Push it real good. Oh, you're so cool, Brewster. Zoinks!
Pelvic thrust!
Bacon.
Don't forget it!
I'm too old for this shit.
Unacceptable! Tacos!
This is Sparta! Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker. Watch your profanity.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
I'm Mary Poppins, y'all!
Happy birthday! I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Double take 3 times. 1, 2, 3.
They're not gonna catch us. We're on a mission from God.
Smoke some badass ganja, baby, by the time you wake up. All healed.
They're here.
Can you dig it? Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
You'll get the shit. You'll be knee deep in the shit.
Okay.
Snap out of it.
Respect my authority!
I am super duper cereal.
How you doing?
Wax on, wax off.